Jess, for having me on what I know is very short notice. It's really an honor to be here. As just mentioned, I'm running and walking across the state of California for my campaign. I started in Sacramento last week, and I've covered about 88 miles on foot so far, going from Sacramento to Elk Grove to Galt to Stockton. Met with Mayor Michael Tubbs, who was elected in 2016 in Stockton. And then now, as of today, down here in Modesto. And so it's really been meaningful for me, not just to walk and experience a community on foot, but to come to meetings like these, which are so important, especially now. And I think about that a lot because before I started running for this position in January, I was a special advisor in Governor Brown's office up in Sacramento. But before that, I was a policy advisor on Hillary Clinton's campaign at the headquarters office in Brooklyn, New York, from the very beginning in May of 2015 until the very end on November 8th, 2016. And I was in Tampa, Florida, getting out the vote for those last 2 weeks, and I was all prepared to go to Washington, D.C. and work on so many of the policies that so many of us talked about tonight, everything from gun violence prevention to education to healthcare. I covered higher education policy and the nation's $1.4 trillion student debt and what we were going to do about all of that. And as we all know, it all went up in smoke, and we all wondered, what can we do? And we all had to answer that question in our own ways, but one thing that has been so inspiring for me coming back to California is seeing groups like this stepping up, saying, we're not going to take it anymore, whether it's the violence in our schools, whether it's efforts to gut our Medi-Cal and Medicare, which the candidate just spoke about right now. We're going to fight back with everything that we have, and more than that, we're going to make sure that California is a model for how progressive politics can work. Even if everything in Washington, D.C. is going completely haywire, we have a lot of control here. As Governor Brown says, it's a federalist system, and there's a lot that California, with 40 million people, the sixth biggest economy in the world, bigger than France, bigger than Italy, bigger than Russia, and now with Brexit closing in on England, there's a lot that we can do here. So for me, I know I look young. I'm 30 years old, coming on 31. But I worked for the governor. Worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign as a policy advisor. I also, like the previous two speakers, went to law school and also did my MBA at Stanford University. Got my undergraduate degree at Harvard University. And I had those chances because of my parents who immigrated to this country and taught me about history and public service and how America welcomes everyone and all of us together can help write the next chapter of that story. So that's what I'm hoping to do as a candidate. I just started 2 months ago. The goal on this part of this run, is to get all the way down to Bakersfield, somehow get over to the coast on foot over those mountains, and then make my way down to San Diego by the June 5th primary. But I really have 3 priorities, and I'll mention them very briefly because I know Jess told me on the last minute edition, and so grateful for this time. The first is to keep our state fiscally strong and protect our money no matter what happens in Washington. Right now, as many of you know, we have a revenue system that's very volatile. And so right now we've got a $6 billion surplus, $10 billion in our rainy day fund. But 8 years ago, as you all remember, we had a $27 billion budget deficit. So the treasurer who issues the state's bonds, and in many ways is the guardian of the state's credit rating, has to be forward thinking of ways to make sure that we don't have that situation happen again. Because that's when you cut pre-K, that's when you cut funding for schools, that's when you cut dental care on Medi-Cal, and we don't want to go through that again. The second thing, and this is something that the governor has done a really good job of, is pushing a bold progressive agenda. And I want to be able to build on that and be a voice for that and show that you can be both fiscally strong and push big ideas at the same time. So the treasurer oversees the state's 529 college savings account program. I think we should open an account for every baby born in California. Even if you just put in a little bit of money, it shows that for every family, for every kid in this state, that we are invested in them, and that we care about them, and that they have a stake in California's future. I want to put more money into our housing, into our healthcare, and help ensure that people can retire with security and dignity. And last of all, in terms of how I run this campaign, I think if there's one thing that we've seen on both sides of the aisle in American politics, and I had a front row seat to it on the Clinton campaign, it's this loss of trust in our political system, and people wondering, are these politicians out there, are they in it for me, or are they in it for themselves? And so much of the root of that is money in politics. There's just too much money coming from too few people. So what I've decided in this campaign is I'm gonna run without any corporate money, without any political action committee money, and without any other special interest money. If someone is kind enough to contribute to my campaign, it should only be because they think I'm gonna do the right thing, whatever may come. So that's the kind of campaign I'm running. In these first 8 weeks, I've raised about $150,000 from about 500 donors. So hoping to run the type of grassroots campaign where instead of calling up wealthy people all day and asking them for money, I'm just gonna make my way down the state, be in communities like this where I can speak for a couple minutes, but most of all, and I'm so grateful to be right here, can listen to all of you. So thank you for welcoming me to this meeting. This is my first time in Modesto. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Vivek, V-I-V-E-K. If you want to learn more about some of my ideas and why I'm running and what I hope to do, and if you want to get in touch, it's vivekforca.com. And you can email me directly at vivek@vivekforca.com. And I would love to keep in touch. So thank you so much to all of you for having me. Sure. So I know, because often in California, especially now, the top two situation can be difficult. In this race, the filing deadline was last Wednesday, and I believe, although I think the paperwork is being processed at the Secretary of State, there are 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 1 Peace and Freedom candidate. So what I'm hoping is to get one of those top two spots, but because there aren't more Democrats than Republicans, you won't have a top 2 potential disaster here that you might have in other races.
How do you, Vivek for what? You said
CA, California.
We also have postcards in the back, so be sure to grab one before you leave.
Hopefully everyone got one. Sam.
No. For the campaign for governor, do you support Villaraigosa or Newsom?
I still,
Or Delane Easton, the progressive female candidate. No one is mentioning, even though she got more votes at the California convention than Villaraigosa. She's pointing that up. And I'm not even supporting her. I just think women who get more votes should be included in the conversation.
Yeah, so I still haven't figured out, every day I wake up and, with Hillary Clinton, and of course Bernie Sanders did bring a lot to the table, but I knew from the beginning of that campaign, Hillary Clinton was who I wanted to support. In this governor campaign, every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, maybe that person. And Delane Easton, who I saw at the convention, was very impressive. And former superintendent of schools for the entire state, former assemblywoman, and pushing a bold progressive agenda. She's also, I believe, the only candidate who's not taking corporate money for governor. So as someone who's not doing that myself, that's very inspiring to me. So I'm still figuring that part out.
And we didn't endorse any, our state party didn't endorse anyone. It was John Chang, Villaraigosa, Gavin Newsom, Delane Easton. They received the highest number of votes, and no one received enough to get the state party endorsement, so our club won't be endorsing anyone, but we will be bringing them to come and meet with you. So we've already, Delane was here at the Central Committee, but we've already spoken to, and Gavin was here, he had about 200 people here, and we've already spoken to each of the gubernatorial campaigns, and we're trying to get them to come and speak. We've invited all of them, and we anticipate, they've all responded and said they're interested. We anticipate each of them coming to the Central Valley. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. So we're wrapping up. I'm just going to make a few last minute plugs.